April 2020, Central Oregon, truck camping. Noah was 19, a college student chasing solitude. He'd always found peace in the wilderness, off-grid weekends where the only sound was wind through pine. That spring, he drove his pickup deep into the forest outside Sunriver, Oregon. He passed no trailheads, no other vehicle, just gravel crunching under tires until the road turned into little more than dirt and needles. He pulled into a small clearing wrapped in a dense wall of trees. It was perfect, quiet, still, almost too still. He laid out his sleeping bag in the truck bed, locked the canopy doors, and filmed a few moments of the moonlit clearing with his GoPro. He even joked on camera that it felt weirdly empty out here. Then he crawled inside the truck, zipped himself up, and let the dark take him. At exactly 2:07 a.m., his eyes opened.
Handprints there, a lot of scratches, stuff like that.
He hadn't heard a sound, at least not consciously, but something felt off. The kind of off that hits your chest before your ears, like your body knows you're being watched. Then came the first noise. Thud, soft, muted, like knuckles tapping metal. Then another, and another. He held his breath. It wasn't hail. It wasn't a branch. It was spaced too perfectly. The rhythm wasn't random. It was curious. His ears caught something else. A soft scraping sound just beyond the wall of the truck. Footsteps, slow, uneven, crunching the gravel in tight, deliberate circles. Someone was walking around his truck. He grabbed his GoPro, pressed record. You can hear the panic in his whisper. I'm in the back. It's pitch dark, and I just heard footsteps. Near my truck. The knocking grew bolder. Bang. Tailgate. Bang. Side panel. Bang. Bang. Door handle. Rattling. Twisting. Noah stayed frozen. The truck lights reflected faint movement, but through the condensation-fogged window, he saw nothing clearly. Then, a shape pressed against the back window. A handprint. Muddy. Pale. Fingers long and spread. It dragged slowly down the glass, leaving behind a wet trail of earth and something darker. Something he told himself was just dirt. They're checking the handle, trying to open it. His voice cracked. His breathing grew shallow. The knocks continued, always in a new place. Testing, searching, a slow, calculated prodding of every access point, like someone or something trying to figure out how to get inside. Then silence. No retreat, no running, just absence. The way a predator disappears when it knows it already has you trapped. He stayed in that position for hours, too afraid to sleep, knife in hand, engine off, not moving. When light finally seeped through the trees, he stepped out, shaky, exhausted. What he found made his skin crawl. The rear glass was covered in muddy handprints, some large, some smaller, as if more than one person had pressed against it during the night. The door handles were scratched raw, with streaks along the edges like nails had been raked against them. The ground was churned with deep, boot-shaped prints, but none of them led away. They stopped at the truck, circled it twice, and vanished. No trail, no return path, just broken patterns of something that had come and stayed and disappeared. Noah didn't report it. He just left, and he hasn't camped alone since. Because whatever was out there that night, it didn't want his gear. It didn't want his truck. It wanted to know if someone was inside, and when it found out, it waited. It starts like most outdoor content, just a man filming his night hike. There's no intro, no commentary, just his boots hitting soft dirt and the sound of his breath misting into the cold. The light from his flashlight sways across the trail, bouncing off tree trunks and branches. It's quiet, serene, peaceful even, but only for a moment. He pauses. Kyle's footsteps stop mid-stride. The beam of his flashlight freezes on a cluster of trees ahead. No movement, no rustling, but that's what makes it unsettling. There's no wind, no creaking trees, not even the faint hum of night insects, just a wall of silence, thick and unnatural. Then a sound. A low growl, so deep and resonant, it almost sounds like it's vibrating through the forest floor. But it's not the snarl of a dog, and it's not a bear. It's too controlled, too steady, as if whatever made it was trying to hold back. It doesn't rise, it doesn't stutter, it just lingers. Kyle whispers into the camera, his voice tight and breathy. "Did you hear that? That wasn't a deer." His flashlight swings side to side, cutting through thick underbrush. That's when he sees them.
Oh. 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 Ah! No! Get the away!
Two amber-colored eyes, set far apart, hovering just above the ground. They don't shimmer like a fox or coyote. They just glow, like dying coals, burning without flicker. Kyle doesn't move, doesn't speak, just stares. And the eyes? They don't blink. Then, a branch snaps behind him. He spins. The camera jolts. His breath catches, and then he's running. What follows is chaos, blurry lights, pounding footsteps, heavy breathing layered with cracking twigs and crashing leaves. The forest becomes a tunnel of panic until the camera falls. It lands sideways in the dirt. The lens is tilted toward a low angle of the trail. Kyle's no longer in frame. There's silence for a moment, then footsteps. Slow, heavy, deliberate. Not running, not chasing, circling. The breathing starts again, but this time, it isn't coming from him. It's too close, too slow, too steady. And then it speaks. A voice, just off mic, quiet, whispered, like someone kneeling next to the lens. You can barely make it out, but it's clear enough. He's close. The camera cuts to static. No one ever saw his face again. No closure, no search parties. Kyle's social media accounts went dark. Comments flooded the reel. Some tried to match the trees. Others pulled the audio apart, analyzing the whisper. But nothing concrete was ever found. The trail, the location, all gone. And those eyes? They never blinked, because they weren't watching him the way animals do. They were waiting. Tucked away in a forgotten stretch of the northern Idaho, there's a scatter of off-grid cabins that barely show up on maps. No fences, no paved roads, just winding dirt trails, generations-old trees, and a kind of quiet most people would find unnatural. The people who live there year-round are few, hermits, retirees, and survivalists. And for the most part, nothing ever happens. But in late 2019, something started happening. It began with small things. Footsteps across empty porches, bare footprints, too large to be animal, too long between strides to be human, appearing in the frost and then vanishing by morning. Cabin walls were scratched, not clawed, not vandalized, just etched. Parallel lines, clean and deliberate, dragged low against the siding, like something had walked by and reached out. On certain nights, when the air was still, people heard the sound of metal groaning deep in the woods, as if something massive were shifting underground, or a rusted gate was swinging open somewhere it shouldn't exist.
Listen, that'd be crazy. Hold on.
Caleb was the first to take it seriously. He was a retired wildlife ranger who had lived in his cabin for over a decade without incident. He knew the difference between animal prints and pranksters, and he didn't scare easy. But something about this was different. He mounted a trail camera outside his back window, motion activated, high-end infrared, completely silent. 3 nights passed. Nothing but wind, raccoons, and a deer passing through. Then came the 4th night. 2:46 a.m., the camera activated. At first, the footage looks like static. Then, slowly, from the left side of the frame, something steps into view. It looks human at a glance, but everything about it is wrong. Its posture is contorted, hunched forward at the shoulders, arms dangling too far past the knees, fingers curling inward, like they were pulling at something invisible, and its skin smooth and colorless, translucent under infrared, as if it wasn't entirely there, like it wasn't solid or real. It moved slowly, deliberately. Each step was careful, as if it didn't want to make a sound, even though the camera had no audio. Then it stopped, right in the center of the frame, and stared straight into the lens. It didn't move, didn't shift, didn't blink. It just stood there, locked in place for nearly 5 full seconds. Later, when Caleb reviewed the footage, he said something that never left him. It wasn't just looking at the camera, it was looking at me, like it knew I'd be watching. Then the footage cuts out. No fading, no power down, just gone. The next morning, Caleb went to retrieve the camera, but it wasn't there. He found it 300 yards into the woods, face down in the dirt, completely intact. No cracks, no water damage. But the battery, brand new just days before, was completely dead, and the SD card snapped in half. Clean, deliberate, split right through the memory chip, like someone had held it in their hand and broken it between their fingers. No backup footage, no recovery, nothing. And after that, the noises stopped. No more scratches, no more footprints, no more groaning from the trees, almost as if it had gotten what it came for. And Caleb never placed another camera again. Isa had been living out of her van for over 2 years. To most people, it sounded like a risk, but to her, it was peace. She'd traded morning traffic and boxed walls for open skies and pine air. Most nights, it was just her, a book, a thermos of tea, and the steady creak of trees in the wind. She always parked deep in nature, far from people, far from noise. That night was no different. She found a pull-off near an unmarked forest trail somewhere in Northern California. The spot was still, quiet, and blanketed in frost. By 10 p.m., she was zipped inside her sleeping bag, tucked in the back of her van, drifting into silence. At 4:30 a.m., she woke up. No engine, no animal, just a tap. It came from directly next to her head, the thin sheet of metal separating her from the outside world. One tap, light, almost gentle, like a finger softly pressing against curiosity. She froze, listened, waited, tried to tell herself it was a branch shifting in the cold.
Hey! Hey! Hey!
Then came the second knock, harder, lower. It wasn't a branch, and it wasn't the wind. It was someone right outside. She leaned in just barely and whispered through the wall. "Hello?" No response. 15 minutes passed. Not a single sound. Then footsteps, crisp, heavy, slow, crunching through frozen grass and gravel, pacing around the vehicle in deliberate circles. No talking, no calls, just boots, measuring the perimeter. She grabbed her phone and began recording. Her voice is low, shaky. "Somebody's back here again. I don't feel safe." She climbed to the driver's seat, careful not to rustle the curtains. Peeking out the cracked window, she caught it, just barely through the tree line. A car, no lights, no noise, parked at the edge of the clearing. The silhouette sat still, like it had been there a while. Then, it began to reverse, slow and silent, disappearing back into the woods. But it wasn't over. A few minutes later, more footsteps, this time closer. No knocking, no car, just pacing. Someone or something was on foot now, and they were circling again. She pointed the camera at her face. You can see the fear in her eyes. She speaks in a whisper, like she's afraid to be heard. This is the third time tonight. The car left, but they came back. They're on foot now. I saw someone duck behind that tree. She stays awake the rest of the night, curled behind the wheel. The van is completely dark inside. Engine off, phone in one hand, knife in the other. No more knocks, no more footsteps, just silence. When the sky began to lighten, she stepped outside. Her boots crunched through the frozen grass, still brittle from the night. She circled the van with the camera. The ground was covered in footprints. Some were deep, heavy boot prints from a man, maybe two. Others were lighter, less clear. Barefoot? She couldn't be sure. But the disturbing part wasn't the number. It was where they led. Nowhere. They didn't walk in from the road. They didn't leave back into the woods. They only circled the van. Again, and again, and again. One set of prints stopped right at the back window and stayed there, standing in place for several minutes based on the melting pattern. Whoever it was wasn't just checking for valuables. They were watching her, and they were patient. Viewers tried to explain it. A thief, a drifter, maybe someone casing the van. But none of them could answer the one question that mattered. Why didn't they ever say anything? They never knocked again. They never ran. They just circled and then disappeared. Isa packed up before the sun finished rising. She's never parked there again. They were somewhere along the ridgeline of the Talkeetna Mountains, north of Anchorage, deep into the backcountry where the map turns to contour lines and snow. No roads, no cell towers, just spruce, silence, and a growing sense that something was following them. At first, it was just a flicker of movement, a dark shape shifting between tree trunks as they crossed an alpine basin choked with snowmelt and fog. Then it stepped out of the trees, a bear, young, lean, alert, maybe 2 or 3 years old, but still large enough to kill them in seconds. It didn't charge, didn't growl. It just stood there still, as stone watching, and then it started to follow. They were hiking a narrow game trail carved into the side of a glacial slope. Below them, a steep drop into brush-choked ravine. Above them, cliffs and talus fields. Nowhere to run. One of the hikers raised his phone, not to document the beauty, but because this might be the last thing anyone ever saw from them. His voice cracked slightly beneath a forced calm. "Go on, bear, come on, dude." But the bear didn't go. It fell in behind them, not chasing, not hunting, just following. They walked. Every step was careful, not too fast, not too slow. The trail weaved through groves of black spruce and aspen, their trunks twisting like skeletal fingers in the mist, and always just a few paces back, the bear. No sound, no breath, just wait. Moving with them, they crossed a frozen creek, climbed a slope slick with meltwater. Still it came. At one point, it paused beside a tree, lifted its head and stood up, showing its full height, shoulders broad, chest rising, eyes never leaving them. A silent message. "You don't belong here. You're not in charge." They stopped. The bear didn't. Now it was just feet away. No terrain between them, no weapon, no plan. The forest was dead silent. Even the birds had vanished. If it charged now, there'd be no chance to scream. Then they made the call. They turned their backs and walked. The dirt cracked beneath their boots. Their breaths came sharp and fast in the cold. Behind them, stillness. Then, movement. A branch snapped. Just once. They didn't look back. The camera caught nothing but trees, now tall, thin, and unmoving. The only sounds were boots, breath, and something too quiet to hear, but too real to ignore. Still following. Eventually, the trail opened into a ridgeline clearing. They turned. The bear was gone. No sound, no shape. Just empty air and fog curling between the trees. But even in its absence, they could feel it. That stare. That silent judgment. The bear never charged, but it never blinked either. And in that part of Alaska, where there's nothing but sky, ice, and forest, for hundreds of miles, sometimes being watched is worse than being attacked. Dylan wasn't new to camping. He'd spent years exploring remote parts of Canada with just a backpack, a camera, and a quiet love for the kind of stillness most people never seek out. His YouTube channel was modest campfire setups, waterfall hikes, hammock tutorials, nothing dramatic, no spooky thumbnails, just nature. But one video broke the pattern. It was late autumn when he posted it. The title was simple. Overnight in deep woods, something felt off. The footage begins like any other. He's off trail, somewhere near the base of a remote forest range outside Vancouver. The air is thin, and the ground is littered with dry pine needles. His voice is calm as he speaks to the camera, explaining where he is, how cold the nights have been. You can hear birds in the background, the kind of peace that makes your chest feel light. He sets up his tent, collects wood, starts a fire, but something changes slowly. Around nightfall, he's filming himself from a tripod firelight flickering across his jacket. His face relaxed, but tired. He's mid-sentence, saying something about cooking when he stops. His eyes shift to something behind the camera. You see him tilt his head slightly, squint. He doesn't say a word for several seconds. Then, very quietly, he reaches for his flashlight. The footage jumps slightly as he picks up the camera and pans toward the tree line. The beam of the light wavers, not because his hands are shaky, but because he's trying not to move too fast, like he doesn't want to draw attention. The light cuts across the trees. For a moment, nothing. Then it stops. A shape, tall, still, human-like, partially obscured behind a thick pine tree. You can't see its face, just part of a shoulder, an arm, a sliver of pale skin. And the posture, it's not hiding. It's just standing, upright, facing him. There's someone there, Dylan whispers. I'm gonna freeze, maybe they'll go away. He lowers the light, doesn't run, doesn't yell. He just backs away, step by step, until he's inside the tent. The fire crackles in the distance. His camera stays off for hours. You don't hear his voice again until dawn. The next scene is filmed in daylight. He's walking back toward the tree with the camera pointed at the ground. He's not narrating, just breathing. There are no footprints, no bent grass, no broken twigs. The area where the figure had been standing looks completely untouched. But when he reviews the footage later that day, frame by frame, he notices something. Right before the figure disappears, as the flashlight lingers on the tree, you can see the trunk of the pine bend, not from the wind, not swaying, pulled. The bark flexes inward, as if someone was gripping the other side, holding it, using it to stay hidden. And then, as the light shifts, the tree springs back upright. Dylan never saw it move, never saw it leave. He ends the video quietly, looking into the lens. I don't think I was alone out there. That was the last camping upload he ever made. His channel hasn't been updated since. This one didn't come from a hiker, or a camper, or a thrill seeker with a GoPro. It came from a man named Joseph, a father of two, in his mid-40s. He lived in a modest home tucked at the edge of a wooded property in rural Pennsylvania. No close neighbors, no street lights, just a backyard that spilled into thick, unclaimed forest, the kind of place where sound travels and lingers. That night, everything was normal. He put his kids to bed just after 10, made tea, stepped out onto the back porch for a few minutes of quiet. The air was cold. You can see his breath on the camera. Crickets buzz faintly underfoot. Then came the sound. At first, it's subtle. A distant metallic drag like steel scraping across stone stretched out and warbled, like it had been run through an old cassette deck at half speed. Joseph squints into the dark and lifts his phone. You hear him mutter, "That's coming from the tower," but towers don't sound like that. In the distance, across the tree line, a red light blinks. The AM radio tower that sat abandoned for decades. People say it still hums at night. No one serves it. No one goes near it. Not since the 90s. The sound deepens. It pulses in waves, echoing through the woods, syncing with the red blink in the sky. High, low, low, high. Then something sharp, almost human, like a shriek filtered through static. The audio glitches briefly, a metallic stutter, then silence. Then, like a whisper buried underwater, something that almost sounds like words. He doesn't speak, just films, slowly walking toward the woods. The phone's flashlight flicks on, but then the sound shifts. It's no longer coming from the tower. It's coming from behind the camera. You hear it, a whisper, close, wet, breath on glass. Psst, hey! Joseph spins around. You hear his jacket rustle. The phone swings wildly. The light hits nothing, just trees, branches, the black beyond the fence line. No footsteps, no movement, just silence. Then again, closer this time. A second whisper, slower, heavier. Not playful, not curious. Final. You shouldn't be here. Joseph gasps. The camera jerks downward. You hear him fumble. Then thud. The phone hits the grass, still filming. Now the shot points upward, a tilted frame of the treetops and the blinking red light above. His breath is fast, unsteady. Then it stops. The rest of the video is quiet, almost too quiet. A soft hum, like radio static buried beneath the earth. Then even that fades, until there's only the wind, gently brushing through the leaves, as if nothing ever happened. No one else in the neighborhood reported hearing anything that night. Joseph never posted again, and when others tried to retrace the sounds, to pinpoint their source, all they heard was wind, and even that felt watched.